The Weather Underground, which started in 1962 as a college organization in Ann Arbor, Michigan, who were known as the Students for a Democratic Society, or SDS. The SDS started because they were against the Vietnam War, racism, and the growing rates of poverty in America, and the majority of the members were classic hippies, but some had more violent and aggressive intentions than others, and some teamed up with Black Panthers and other radical groups. After the collapse of the SDS, the remainder of the people then officially became the Weather Underground in 1969, which was founded by Mark Rudd, Bernardine Dohrn, Jeff Jones, and their main leader Bill Ayers, and they called themselves the Weathermen. They started off doing street violence act with public supporters called Days of Rage, but this was not getting the attention of the government in a significant way and eventually led them to committing greater acts of violence by doing a total of 25 bombings in a span of 7 years after they became the Weathermen. The bombings included the U.S. Capitol, U.S. State Department office, the Pentagon, California's Attorney General's office, and the New York City Police Station headquarters. The mainstream news reported the Weather Underground as a terrorist group that needed to be stopped immediately, but that was just covering up the real horrors going on across the seas in Vietnam where Americans were the terrorists. Yes, violence and bombings are a form of terrorism, but the Weathermen were just trying to get the public's attention on what was really going on in Vietnam by any means, which included bombings that had no fatalities, just damage to buildings.
This fall, in Chicago, we will lead massive demonstrations against the war in support of the Black Panther Party and in solidarity with all political prisoners, including...
Today, he is a professor of education at the University of Illinois at Chicago.
Throughout the fall, we will continue
But in
actions to stop the war
1969, Bill
and increase our
Ayers and
impact
the
on
other
community.
leaders of a group called the
Throughout the
Weathermen
fall, we will continue
felt
actions to
frustrated
stop
by
the
the
war
slow
and
pace of
increase our
efforts
impact on
to end
communities.
the Vietnam War.
Every day that the war went on, 2,000 innocent people would be killed. Not 2,000 a year, not 200 a day, 2,000 a day were going to be killed. And that meant that if we couldn't stop it tomorrow, it would be 2,000. If we couldn't stop it by Friday, it would be 10,000, and so on. And so there was a kind of an urgency that took over. And in that context, we faced each other and tried to figure out, what do you do to end a war? How do you stop it?
All the members moved on with their lives once the aftermath of the bombings were over, and most of them are now college professors. The members did not face any jail time, and most of them were just put on probation. In 1996, Obama was running for state senator, and there is evidence to support that he met with both Bill Ayers and Bernardine Dohrn in their home during his campaign. It is believed that the two of them helped him launch his political career, but still, all three of them are denying that they had any involvement in Obama's life or career. People weren't happy to hear that Obama was associated with former bombers and anti-war criminals. During Obama's campaign in 2008, Mark Rudd, who was one of the former members, was making comments on a blog that was aimed to calm nervous progressives. These former Weathermen terrorists thought Obama was the answer to the revolution and wanted him to succeed. Jeff Jones became a political consultant and got help from some of his clients that helped him sue the government to get what they wanted, such as helping to stop the drilling of oil and logging in America. All four of the main Weathermen were members of an organization called Movement for a Democratic Society and also Progressives for Obama. They also helped raise funds and recruited other activists to support his campaign.
Senator Obama served on a board with Mr. Ayers for a period of time.
Is someone who sees America as imperfect enough to pal around with terrorists?
Terrorists. We keep hearing these Weathermen referred to as terrorists. Don't terrorists usually try and target civilians as well as do damage to property? This group must have had really bad planning if they're trying to kill a lot of people. It seems as though they intentionally waited until the buildings were empty to plant the bombs. Another interesting fact is that they spoke up and took credit for their actions instead of staying under the radar because they wanted the government to know who was making all of these bold statements.